So as we end 2018 and get closer to the holiday months, getting ready for the new year and 2019 approaching, there are a lot of new things on the horizon. New maps, new characters, and of course new modes and new themes that will add cool skins and cosmetics for all of us to enjoy. But let's focus a little bit today on the characters. Paladins has historically had a ton of characters added in the previous years of existence. 2017, an example, aimed for 17 champions, and I believe it actually brought about at least 12, maybe 13 into the roster. But 2018, we've seen a significant slow, a lot more high quality champions, but less in terms of volume. I want to ask, is this the right direction? And I want to know what you guys think and whether you think Paladin should increase the amount of characters it makes in 2019 or if it should continue to release slower, more developed champions with bigger stories and bigger backlines. We'll talk about the pros and cons, and by backlines I mean storylines, but if she's doing some deadlifts, I ain't mad at you. So let's start out the conversation with an age-old question that you always ask your buddies, or at least I do in the casting room at High Res Studios and Skillshot Media. Would you rather fight one horse-sized duck or 100 duck-sized horses? I mean, honestly, this question is kind of hilarious, right? But I think everyone, at least most people that I talk to, would rather face off against the horses because the smaller duck-sized horses would be at least manageable one by one. You can see that, yes, if I get overran or overwhelmed, I could be in trouble. If I get knocked to the ground, God forbid, yeah, they'd trample me. Just the sheer amount of size, that would be crazy. But no one wants to face off against a horse-sized duck. I mean, horses are huge. Nobody wants a duck that big. I don't care whether you think a beak is sharp or not. I'm not willing to test that theory against a duck that is bigger than me. Now, the reason I posit this question is twofold. One, I want to get you to think. Secondly, I want you to get engaged in this conversation and understand that there is a value system that we have as humans oriented around size and quality of something versus quantity. We have that idea of if there is a lot of something, it may end up overweighing or at least evening out the value of one incredibly important thing. I mean, think about it like this. You have just a ton of opportunities to travel around the world and go to Spain, maybe to Portugal, right? Maybe you can go to Brazil, maybe you can go to Italy, you can go to France, you could also go to London within a year. Or you can go to the best restaurant in the world, in the best, most valuable location you want. Maybe it's like, it could be Ireland. Maybe you just love Ireland. You can go there, the best restaurant, stay at the best hotel for 5 days, but that's it. That's all you can do. You get the super quality experience or you get the varied quantity experience. What turns the tide? What gets the value? And what shifts your decision into one thing or the other? That's really what this question is positing, and I actually think there's some very interesting answers. Honestly, when we draw the parallel to that type of metaphor to Paladins, I think that a lot of people would say that it depends how many places I get to go, and also, is the quality that bad and the variety of places I go to? That's the real big thing here, because if Paladins can offer 30 champions, and each champion is actually pretty good, like they're not the best thing ever, but they're pretty good, they're fun, like they're enjoyable, and they add to the roster in meaningful ways, then yeah, I think I'd rather have 30 champions. But if I have to stay in a hostel, if I have to have a horrible experience and travel the world, but I'm getting these negative things happening to me, like I have no money, I have no food, I have no place to stay, and it's raining everywhere I go when I'm visiting these areas, then I'd rather have probably the nice experience that's going to give me the quality and value that I love. Now, I'm a big fan of quantity when the quality is still good, right? You always want a deal. You want the value. If you can get kind of the best of both worlds, that's great. And quantity oftentimes gives you that because not every champion your favorite. So if you have to only wait for 5 or 6 throughout a total year, then maybe only one is one that you really like. But if you can go through 20, well, maybe you like 3 or 4. And yeah, the one that you liked in the other version, the other timeline would have been really good. Now you have 4 that are good. You know, you have 4 good champions you like to play, and I think that probably provides more value to most people. However, I don't think this conversation is just as simply over and done with before looking at the value of quality, which is really the approach Paladins has been taking in 2018. In 2017, we saw nearly 17 new champions added to the game. That was the goal, and I believe at least 12 were hit. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. Now, heading into the rest of the year, turning into 2018, there was a difference. There was an approach of let's focus on quality. Let's focus on bug fixes. And yes, there are still bugs that need to be fixed. That's not what this video is about. Let's focus on more lore. Let's focus on more themes. Like, can we get more of the Abyss around? Can we strengthen the theme of the Pyre and how these two things interact to build more of a living world? Can we create stories that allow our characters and our fans who play these characters to get more engaged with us over the years to come? And that has resulted in some incredibly exciting champions added to the roster. I mean, you've got Moji to start out the year, and then you add Khan, you add Furia, you have Koga, and then you have Dredge. Those are the champions that have been out in 2018. It doesn't really even feel like that many, but they've all brought so much to the game in different ways. Yes, positive, yes, negative. They've been good. They've had moments of needing nerfs, of needing buffs, but at the end of the day, they have brought a lot to the roster. You look at Khan and his relationship with Leon, the Primus of House Ico, who has protected the Scion of House Ico, the badass nature that he brought to the game, and just his ability to be a dominating tank that's first pick, first ban, and high-level competitive, and a super good asset that has great skins for us throughout the year. To Furia and that relationship, the tenuous and interesting relationship of her past, being sisters of Ceres, and both of them getting pulled from the Abyss to the Pyre in this eternal fight for power. Then Koga comes in, swinging the Dragon Fangs that he learned at the behest of his master, and at that time, Senpai Zen, who, you know, gives you a whole nother look into what Zen was doing in his past. And then the new Sky shows up, and maybe she spent some time at the dojo. To the Captain Dredge, who goes in search for the gauntlet, the Dragon Claw, or whatever it was that he was grabbing on that ship that was super valuable for him, and of course gets swallowed up by the Abyss and brings that kind of undead pirate vibe to Paladins that was never there before. I think Paladins has consistently added more and more to the roster and more to the story and lore with each new champion release, and that's set a really nice precedent for champion releases. However, to do that, they've had to go down in terms of the rate of champions that have been released in the game. Now, would you trade the value that you've gotten from some of these things? I don't know. I think it's a question that maybe deserves a little bit more looking into. Not saying that the champions in 2017 didn't bring value, but you look at Khan, you look at Furia, you look at Koga, and you look at Dredge. I actually think those are some of the coolest champions to have skins on in all of Paladins. So from a cosmetic standpoint, the extra quality, I think, allows you to skin these champions better and add to your cosmetic experience in the game. Not that that matters, but I'm a guy that likes skins, and I'm sure a lot of you do too as well. Secondly, nearly every champion I mentioned, except for Moji, has some type of relationship to the other champions that's being revealed through their character release. It's not only adding this champion, it's adding this champion, but because they had this relationship or this experience or this battle with this other champion that's already in the game. It not only makes you want to play Koga, it makes you want to play Zen again. It doesn't make you want to play Leon, just Khan. It makes you want to go ahead and play Leon in a duo queue with your buddies, so you could be the Primus and the Scion of House Ico taking on whoever is in the opposing team. It really creates these great moments, and I think that's something that can't necessarily be as well achieved if the volume of champions is too great. Another component of this is, does the fact that you have less mean that each one gains a greater value in the eyes of the players, the fans, and of course everyone involved in the Paladins community? Does the fact that you have to wait maybe an extra month or so between champion releases make that champion release a little bit more hype? Does it increase your engagement to the game? Or does it actually diminish something that was a value of engagement for Paladins and Paladins players for the last year, which is the increased champions allow an increased viewership from people who are not necessarily engaged yet but are willing to give Paladins a try. I mean, this is just my anecdotal experience, but if a game actually throws a new character, a new map, a new dynamic, a new thing, right? A new season, you pay attention, especially if you're in the gaming world, you're on Twitch, you see streamers playing it, and Paladins in 2017 had the luxury and I think just the wherewithal to create enough champions to continually draw in new looks, new faces, new players to give the game a try. At that time, though, it did seem that the game wasn't at the perfect shape of quality, of balance, of the way that it needed to be to really keep those players, although a lot of them have stayed and still enjoyed their time in the realm. So we have this interesting quandary where you need the quality to keep the players, but you need the new attractions to bring in the new players. And as a member of the community, it's something I know a lot of people have talked about. We want to continue to draw in new players to this game, and I think that adding new champions and really champions alone is one of, if not the best way to get somebody who's familiar with the game but hasn't downloaded it to just say, it's free to play, yeah, let me go ahead and just download just to check out this new champion and see if they're cool. So there are obviously values to having the quality of these champions because they add a lot to the experience of the player already engaged in Paladins. But I'd say that there's a very even, maybe a bigger value added to maybe the totality of the game or the new players joining the game by an increased amount of champions coming in and giving new looks, new reasons for people to download and try this out. Now, how do you balance both of these? Because they do conflict. If you're going to make quality, you have to give up on some of the quantity. Any artist, any person who creates for a living knows this. I cannot make daily videos, but make every video the dopest video you've ever seen. It's just impossible. If you're going to do that, you got to spend some time editing, which means you can't make a video every single day unless you make 5 in a day and then use that week to just upload pre-recorded stuff. So you have to pace it out. However, when you're pacing it out, you don't get the chance to keep getting new eyeballs on it as much as possible unless those champions are mega hits. And of course, in a game that's 2-3 years old, there's a lot of people who are not necessarily looking for a reason to get into Paladins. They need to be given a reason to get into Paladins, and that's where new champions constantly helps to keep their eyes turned this way. So now I kind of want to know what you guys think. Because we had 14 champions in 2017, I know the number now, and we have 6-ish, I think, in 2018. In 2019, should we try to split the difference with 10? It seems like a reasonable number to me, but it doesn't mean that that's the best way to go about it. Again, 10 is much more than we did this year, and the fact is you'd have to ramp up some production time. However, here's the benefit of Paladins players to kind of acknowledge where we're at versus where we were at. We were adding 14 new champions. This game is a lot cleaner. It's a lot smoother. It is a lot better, and the metallics, the things like the art, the direction, the design, the balance, everything has gotten better. So new champions now, getting new players to look, if you increase the quantity again, I think actually help to grab new players, and this time keep them. The game is in a place that it's better than it's ever been. It's more AAA than it's ever been for a free-to-play game. This is something that is a gem out there, and more people need to treat themselves with. So in my opinion, splitting the difference with 10 is probably the best way to go about it. Now, I don't know for sure what the plans are. I haven't really talked about the 2019 plans with the design team, and that's the point of this video. I don't want to have talked about it. I want to give my honest thoughts, and I want you to give your honest thoughts with me as well. So let me know what you think about the rate of champions and if Paladins should be adding more in 2019. Do you think 10's a good number? Do you think 6-ish is fine? Do you think 8 is a little bit better? Or do you think 14, full speed ahead, is appropriate and maybe lessening some of the thematic lore, some of the maps attached, some of the cool things that come with it and the amount of cosmetics, and then really focusing on really filling out that roster. We have another video that I could probably do on this, which is how many champions should probably exist in Paladins and when should we stop making champions, but we'll save that for another day. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one and stayed along for the ride with me. If you did, really appreciate you, and make sure to stay tuned because we got some cool stuff coming out in the future to talk about and to let you know about that I'm doing on my end. As always, friends, remember to never give up, never stop gaming, and I'll see you all in the realm.